Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, I'm Jay Fallon, and thank you for listening to The Slippery Slope. So, I'd like to believe in the best in people. I'd like to believe that people are not out there trying to manipulate the system, putting things in place just so that they can take advantage of everyone else's disadvantage. When things start going wrong, when they see things are wrong, they think, yep, okay, we've got these things in place and now we can take advantage of that. We've already got this in. We can manipulate, we can control, we can make tons and tons of money out of other people's misfortune, out of global misfortune. We can take advantage and make money, just billions and billions out of global war. I'd like to believe that there are people who aren't doing that. However, I seriously doubt it. Seriously doubt it. And let's look at what happened just a few short years ago in that little pandemic that we had, and the people, the institutions that were taking advantage of it, that just happened to have things in place already. Said, "Oh, look at this. We've already got this little gem in place." And it's maybe you might have to pay a little fee and get this because we're just scaring everybody and telling everybody and putting things into place which says that this is mandated and you have to do this. You have to take this action. So maybe it's just the cynic in me. It's just the cynic in me. But I'm reading this article this morning. I thought, wow, who would have thought that this is where we're going? Well, I'll be honest, this is exactly where I thought we are going. Let's check out this article. If you're in Australia, this came out in the Courier Mail. Like I said, I was expecting something like this to come out. It's an interesting read. The headline says, grounded approach. Stay home and save Australia. As always, it's always, hey, this is for your health, for your safety. This is to protect the children. This is to protect the old people. It's always to save someone. We're always saving someone. And this is why we're telling you that this is what you must do. No ulterior motives. The world's energy watchdog has issued an extraordinary call for Australians to work from home, limit air travel, and reduce highway speeds as the fuel crisis deepens. The International Energy Agency, IEA, on Friday advised its member countries, which includes Australia, the UK, and the US, to implement the emergency measures to decrease dependence on oil as the conflict in the Middle East continues to disrupt supply. Probably the most frustrating thing about seeing this all unravel, okay, seeing this all be put into motion is, as a kid, I remember you'd hear people talking, older guys, like people, I'm talking when I was like, young, early teenage years, these old guys in their 50s, 60s, whatever, saying, man, this is just crazy that we don't, we're not refining our own oil. We're not doing all these things. We're importing all these products. It's ridiculous how we're dependent upon other countries, upon this global chain, how we're not producing things here anymore. And so what I find the most frustrating thing is if the everyday Joe, everyday Aussie can see this, has enough forethought to see this is going to cause problems down the road. This is not the way to go for our country. Why do our politicians, why have they never seen it? Or have they actually seen it, but they have just put their blinkers on, refused to acknowledge it? They know where we're going. They knew that someone knew one day this kind of thing would happen, but they're ready to take advantage of it. Am I just being way too cynical? Anyway, so the shock call comes as Australia's biggest businesses, including Uber, Virgin, Qantas, Coles, Woolworths, they've already began increasing prices or foreshadowing significant adjustments to their charges as they respond to rapidly spiraling fuel costs and the knock-on supply chain effects. So in this statement, the IEA Executive Director, Fatih Birol, said the Middle East conflict had triggered the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. It's funny, like I said, it all comes from this one area. Everything is reliant upon this one area, which has always had conflict in it. There's always been conflict of some sort going on. Okay. And yet everyone said, hey, great idea. Why don't we all rely on peace in this one area where there's virtually never been peace? But let's put all of our eggs virtually in one basket. Brilliant. So the conflict in the Middle East has created the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. The report says 3 additional remote work days for those whose job allows it. These are the recommendations. So 3 additional remote work days. Okay, that could cut oil consumption from cars by 2% to 6%, with average potential reductions of around 20% for individual drivers. Greater adoption of electric, oh wow, and other alternative modern cooking solutions could manage potential cooking fuel shortages alongside other measures to conserve LPG. Well, golly gee, if only Australia could produce its own LPG. If only. So lowering the speed limit on highways by 10 kilometers an hour can reduce an individual's driver's oil consumption by 5% to 10% and overall oil use for use by cars. Other recommendations included avoiding air travel where possible, using more public transport, and adjusting air conditioning settings in cars and trucks. Yeah, that works really well when it's 40 degrees. In the absence of a swift resolution, the impacts on energy markets and economies are set to become more and more severe. So this agency was formed in the wake of the 1970s oil crisis to respond to global oil shortages. And it said in a statement that about 20 million barrels of crude oil and oil products typically pass through the Hormuz Strait. Like I said, it all passes through this one strait, and hey, let's all rely on that for all of our oil consumption. Let's all rely on that for our supply. So the loss of these flows has tightened markets significantly, pushing crude oil prices above US $100 per barrel. I personally believe I've heard others report. I personally believe the American government is actually shorting the market at the moment and holding back oil prices. I think my opinion is that oil prices should be well and truly above the $100. It should have been blown out of the water, blown it, way above, probably more like $200 a barrel. But yet somehow, so yeah, there's speculation that they're actually, I don't know if it's actually speculation. They're saying they're actually shorting the market to hold back oil prices. So the IEA's intervention comes as major Australian companies move to hike prices in response to rising fuel prices, with Virgin Australia confirming on Friday it would lift airfares from early next week. The funny thing, they've just recommended that you don't fly, you don't take airplanes. So Virgin Australia said, "Oh, you know what we should do? We should raise our air price tickets." But they're recommending no one flies anyway. So you might have a bit more of a problem than just raising your tickets, bro. Costs across the aviation sector, that's not really interesting. So let's get down here, okay? So the LNP, they've decided here in Queensland that, look at this. We've got permanent 50-cent fares are here to stay, which is just taxpayer funded. So, it's great. The LNP are doing it, but hey, it's the taxpayer that are funding all this. The federal government has assured the public, they've reassured us. Let's remember that the federal government, and not just this one, but federal government across decades now, they are responsible for the predicament that we Australians find ourselves in right now. Because, like I said, the everyday Aussie bloke, everyday Aussie female saw this coming decades ago, knew that you shouldn't rely on a global market like this and just have all your eggs in one basket, that you should be able to produce things that are a necessity for life. But no, we haven't done this. We put all our eggs in one basket. They're talking about LPG shortages, but yet we we're a major supplier of LPG globally. So we should not have a problem. So in Queensland, let me go. While states and territories are keeping an close eye on the evolving situation overseas and shortages in their own jurisdictions, in Queensland the situation has not reached the point where the government needs to direct fuel distribution. It hasn't, but it could realistically at any moment. With the market still expected to meet demand in affected regional areas. We're going to find out at the very last minute. That's how it's all going to play out because the government's going to keep soothing everyone, just keep putting out good little messages. No, everything's under control until they can't hide it anymore, and then it's going to be, oh my goodness, we're all in trouble. That's what's going to happen, I think. So the government is instead maintaining real-time monitoring of supply, prices, and distribution constraints while holding daily talks with fuel companies and major users. The demographic group co-founder Simon blah 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 was blunt when warning about what impacts were still to come. The production of every good that you purchase is going up in price. Everything that you purchase is being trucked around or being flown into Australia. The whole supply chain costs escalate as fuel costs go up. So Mr. Kueston Macha warned prices would be increased sooner rather than later. I mean, sooner. We all know this. As soon as they announced the war, virtually, fuel prices went up magically. Even though the diesel that was in the ground already, in the tanks already, was what we'd bought, for a cheaper price. But somehow it magically made diesel go up $1 overnight. And remember, diesel, I'm saying this because my car takes diesel. Diesel used to be the cheaper fuel. It used to be 20 cents cheaper than unleaded. Now, for some reason, it's 50 cents more expensive than unleaded. I wonder why that happened. It's not the fact that anyone is taking advantage of, of the markets. Nothing at all. So, anyway, it says in this environment, absolutely everyone expects price rises. Therefore, we have the risk that a business just increases prices and pockets higher margins. Yeah, or maybe people just stop spending and just buy the basics and people start going bankrupt, bust. So, am I just a cynic? Am I just a cynic? Please let me know what you think. I believe that soon we are going to see the government stepping in, pushing further restrictions. We will see fuel shortages. I think that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to see fuel shortages. We're going to see major price rises within our food products, and with fuel, probably end up putting restrictions in and not allowing people to use their vehicles whenever you want, to go wherever you want. I think that's the kind of restrictions that are coming. I think they've already put things in place when we had the pandemic a couple of years ago. Just they were testing the waters just to see how far they can push it, and now they're going to see again how far can they push it. What kind of things can they bring in? What kind of laws can they bring in quickly? What kind of mandates can they bring in? We've got all these hate speech laws that were rushed in. Heaven forbid anyone stands up and says anything against the government. What kind of changes could they make to the hate speech laws to clamp down on speech? Anyone speaking out? I don't know. But this all seems way too convenient to me. These things, it was, like I said, if people 40, 50 years ago were talking about this, talking about how this is something dangerous for our nation, we should not be putting ourselves in this kind of situation where we rely on global supply chains. We need to be able to produce our own energy, produce our own food. We need to be able to be self-sufficient because we're an island nation and not rely on big boats coming in to supply us for everything. If people could see that, 50 years ago, why the heck didn't our governments do anything about it? Because in reality, someone else out there is manipulating everything. Someone else out there is manipulating and taking advantage of our disadvantage, and they will be making tons and tons of money out of it. I believe that's exactly what's happening. And the government will just be there again, testing the waters. What laws can they push through? What mandates can they push through? What can they make Australians do They've already done it with the pandemic a couple of years ago, but how far can we push it now? That's where I think we're going. I think you need to get prepared. I'm not saying, be a prepper or anything extreme, but have some forethought. Don't be like the Australian government and just bury your head in the sand. Someone wasn't burying their head in the sand. Some people knew exactly what was going to be happening. And some people are going to be making tons and tons of money out of it because they were prepared and they were ready. And they're just taking advantage of it. And our silly government is just going along for the ride. And we're going to be paying the price. Let me know what you think. I'd like to know more. My name's Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna stop me now. No more deals to be done. No more selling out my soul just to focus on the goal. Nothing's gonna stop me now. Nothing's gonna hold me down. Got my eye on the prize, gonna set on the clouds and see.